hustler getting money. Why you down? I wanna get with you. And I'm so lonely, Mr. Love. I feel you creeping, I can see it from my shadow. Wanna jump, I wanna make up right now, nah, nah. I wanna make up in the anything in the oh, sleeping.
So what actually happened to Akon? Was it one bad move? A scandal? A flop? Not exactly. What happened was everything, all at once. How does a man go from having 5 songs on the Billboard Hot 100 at the same time to vanishing from the spotlight like he never existed? Akon was the voice behind every club banger, from Smack That to Don't Matter, and the next, silence. No new hits, no major tours, just gone. But here's the thing most people missed. Akon didn't just fade away. He pivoted, hard. And the direction he went? Let's just say it's one of the wildest career plot twists in music history. We're talking about a guy who claimed to power entire African villages, launched his own cryptocurrency, and even announced plans to build a real-life futuristic city called Akon City. Yeah, that's not a joke. So what actually happened? Why did one of the most recognizable voices of the 2000s disappear from the charts? Was it the industry? Was it scandal? Or was it something bigger, something weirder? Stick around, because this story, it only makes sense when you see the full arc. And trust me, the twist at the end, you're not ready for it. Before he was talking about crypto cities and global power grids, Akon was just a Senegalese American kid with a criminal record and a dream. And in 2004, he exploded onto the scene with a voice that didn't sound like anyone else. His debut single, Locked Up, wasn't just catchy. It felt real, raw, gritty. It wasn't polished pop, it was pain on a beat. Then came Lonely. A weird, high-pitched sample and a sad boy anthem somehow turned into a global smash. Everyone was singing it. Clubs, radio, even your mom's ringtone. Akon's voice wasn't just everywhere, it was the moment. From there, it was hit after hit. Smack That with Eminem, Don't Matter, and I Wanna Love You. Each one climbing the charts like it had something to prove. And Akon's secret weapon? He wasn't just making his own music. He was the king of collaborations. He turned features into gold. Show up on an Akon hook, and your song was basically guaranteed to pop. He did it for Snoop Dogg, Young Jeezy, Gwen Stefani, even Bone Thugs. You knew it was him from the second you heard that Convict Music clink tag at the start. Iconic. By the late 2000s, Akon wasn't just successful. He was untouchable. People weren't asking who he was. They were asking who wasn't working with him. But as his star climbed higher and higher, things started to shift. By the time 2006 rolled around, Akon wasn't just a hitmaker, he was the guy behind the curtain pulling the strings. He dropped his second album, Convicted, and it wasn't just successful, it was a full-on takeover. Triple platinum, Grammy nominations, chart domination. But here's the wild part. While most artists would ride that wave, Akon started building an empire. Quietly, strategically. He founded his own label, Convict Music, and started signing talent. Real talent. One of his biggest signings? A dude with a top hat and crazy auto-tune vocals named T-Pain. You know how that turned out. And if that wasn't enough, Akon is one of the earliest people to co-sign Lady Gaga. Yeah, that Lady Gaga. Before the meet dresses and stadium tours, she was grinding in the background. Akon heard her demo and told his team to sign her on the spot. The result? She became one of the biggest pop stars of all time, and Akon made a serious bag off her success. While his own music was still charting, Akon was building a network, collaborating with Eminem, working with Michael Jackson. Yes, that Michael Jackson. He was in rare rooms with rare people. Not many artists could pivot from club anthems to business deals with global icons. But Akon did. And he wasn't just doing it for the fame. He started talking publicly about issues way outside music: energy, poverty in Africa, water shortages, education access. While rappers were flexing chains and cars, Akon was talking about solar power and global impact. People started calling him the bridge between hip-hop and global change. He was moving in spaces most musicians never even get close to. And it looked like he had cracked the code, making hits while making a difference. But when someone climbs that high, there's only one direction left to go. On the surface, Akon looked unstoppable. Every move he made turned into money, music, or momentum. But behind the scenes, the cracks had already started to form. It started with controversy. In 2007, Akon was performing at a concert in Trinidad when a moment on stage spiraled out of control. He pulled a young fan up and danced on her, pretty aggressively, only for the media to later reveal she was underage. Headlines exploded, sponsors pulled out, there were protests. Verizon Wireless even dropped their sponsorship of Gwen Stefani's tour because Akon was on it. Then came questions about his backstory. For years, Akon had claimed he ran a car theft ring and did serious prison time. But investigative reporters dug into court records and found almost nothing. Some charges, sure, but no major convictions, no long prison sentence. Fans started asking, was the locked up image all marketing? And then, as the 2010s hit, something changed in the air. The artists Akon helped launch, like T-Pain and Lady Gaga, started to outshine him. The student became the master. Lady Gaga became a global phenomenon. T-Pain dominated radio with his own lane. Akon's name slowly started to fade from the charts. His next album, Stadium, was delayed, and delayed again, and then again. At one point, he promised it would have 5 versions for 5 genres. It never saw the light of day. Fans waited, but nothing landed. And while the music stalled, so did the momentum. Interviews became rare. Paparazzi stopped chasing. Akon went from being on every radio station to being a memory. It wasn't a crash. It was more like a slow dissolve. The kind where you don't notice someone's missing until someone asks, "Wait, whatever happened to Akon?" But he wasn't done. Not even close. Because while most thought he had disappeared, he was actually planning his most ambitious move yet. So Akon fades from the spotlight. The features stop. The radio quiets down. The album never drops. And fans start asking the obvious, where is he? Some thought he retired. Others figured he got rich and dipped. But the truth? Way more interesting. While everyone assumed he'd fallen off, Akon was behind closed doors, working on something strange. He wasn't chasing hits anymore. He was chasing legacy. And the way he planned to do it? Not with another chart-topping single, but by building an actual city. No, seriously, a real-life city. In 2018, Akon held a press conference in Senegal and casually announced plans to build a futuristic, Wakanda-style city powered entirely by renewable energy and his own cryptocurrency called Akoin. The city would have hospitals, schools, an airport, luxury condos, and high-tech everything. And it wasn't just talk. He said the land had already been gifted by the president of Senegal. Renderings were released. It looked like something out of a sci-fi movie. The internet lost its mind. Memes flew. Headlines called it insane. Some called him a genius. Others weren't so sure. People were confused. Was Akon serious? Or was this just another celebrity fantasy project? Meanwhile, Akon doubled down. He claimed construction would begin soon. He said it would be a beacon of hope for Africa, a model for Black innovation. And all of it would run on Akoin, the crypto he claimed would transform African economies. Music blogs stopped covering him, but financial sites started paying attention. It was the most bizarre reinvention no one saw coming. The guy who gave us Locked Up was now pitching a self-sustaining smart city on a blockchain. And the wildest part, he wasn't done making promises. Akon City wasn't just a side hustle. This was Akon's new identity. He stopped being the guy who made smack that and started calling himself a global visionary. And honestly, it sounded like a movie pitch. He described the city as a real-life Wakanda. Futuristic buildings, smart roads, green energy, a city where African innovation would lead the world. The budget? An estimated $6 billion. And somehow, Akon said it was already in motion. He said Phase 1 would be completed by 2023. It would include roads, a police station, a mall, waste systems, a hospital, and a school. Oh, and a solar power plant. All powered by Akoin, his personal cryptocurrency built for the African economy of the future. At conferences and interviews, Akon wore suits, not chains. He spoke like a tech CEO, a humanitarian, a man on a mission to bring Africa into the future, bypassing the systems that had failed it for decades. But here's where things get messy. Journalists started asking questions. Where was the construction? Who were the investors? Could Akoin even function in countries with strict crypto laws? And most importantly, had anyone actually seen progress on the ground? Reports came out suggesting very little had been built. Local officials said they hadn't been paid. The flashy renderings? Beautiful, sure. But real infrastructure? Barely there. Still, Akon kept pushing. He claimed everything was moving slower because of the pandemic. He said investors were still lining up, and he stayed locked in on the vision. He wanted to build something bigger than himself, a place that could change lives. The crazy part? Despite all the delays and confusion, many people still believed in him. Not because of proof, but because, well, it's Akon. He always found a way to deliver before. But now he wasn't just fighting critics. He was fighting time, money, and trust. At first, Akon City sounded too wild to be real. But then it got worse. Because when people started actually digging, the red flags weren't just waving. They were practically screaming. Investigative journalists visited the proposed site in Senegal. What they found? A few signs, a ceremonial stone, and a barren field. No construction, no cranes, no roads, just open land. Locals in the area said they hadn't seen much movement since the announcement. Some hadn't even heard of Akoin. Meanwhile, Akon was traveling the world, giving TED-style talks, pitching the dream, and collecting press. He spoke at crypto conferences, business forums, even United Nations summits. But back home, people started asking, where's the progress? And the crypto part? That got murky fast. Akoin was supposed to be the financial engine of the city, helping unbanked Africans access global markets. But crypto experts raised concerns. The token didn't have widespread adoption. It wasn't listed on major exchanges. Some critics said it looked more like a marketing stunt than a functioning currency. In 2022, reports surfaced that contractors and engineers involved in early planning hadn't been paid. One even filed a lawsuit, claiming Akon and his team owed millions in unpaid fees. Akon's reps denied wrongdoing, saying it was just business issues. But the damage was done. People started comparing Akon City to Fire Festival. Big promises, flashy presentations, celebrity name, but no substance. Twitter roasted him. Headlines flipped from hopeful to hostile. What was once seen as visionary now looked suspicious. Still, Akon never wavered. He insisted it was all still happening, just slowly. He blamed delays on COVID. He said financing was being finalized. He told fans to be patient. But here's the thing. When you promise a utopia and deliver a PowerPoint, patience starts to run out. While the world side-eyed Akon City and questioned the crypto hustle, Akon quietly tried to return to the one thing that made him famous in the first place: music. He dropped new projects. El Negrito in 2019, Wakanda shortly after. then TT Freak, all under his own label, all independent. It was a rebrand, global sounds, Afrobeat influence, collaborations with artists from across the continent. On paper, it made sense. Akon had always talked about bridging Africa and the West. Now he was actually doing it musically. But here's the problem. Almost no one noticed. The albums came and went with barely a ripple. No major chart placements, no viral moments, no label push. It felt like he was dropping music into the void. The world had moved on, and Akon, once a staple of every radio station and party playlist, was now fighting for attention in a completely different landscape. Streaming had taken over. TikTok dictated the charts, and the signature Akon sound, auto-tuned hooks, and melodic crooning had been copied, remixed, and left behind. What used to feel fresh now sounded dated to new listeners. Still, Akon wasn't done. He did interviews, trying to reframe the narrative. He wasn't falling off. He was expanding. He had evolved into a businessman, a builder, a global figure. He spoke about electrifying over 600 million people in Africa. He told Forbes, CNN, anyone who would listen, that his work behind the scenes was more important than being famous. And maybe he was right. Fame fades. But power? That's a different game. The question was, did anyone care? His core fans wanted music. New audiences barely knew who he was. And in the middle of all that, Akon kept doubling down on Akon City. He promised updates were coming. He swore progress was happening. He said the legacy would be bigger than the charts. But the silence was louder than the statements. Part of it was timing. Akon blew up during an era when artists dominated through radio and CDs. But when streaming took over, the industry changed, and fast. Suddenly, younger artists with viral energy and new sounds were taking over. Akon's melodic, auto-tuned style, it became the blueprint for a while, then got buried under the next wave. The very sound he helped popularize became so common, people stopped crediting him for it. And then there's the reinvention problem. When Akon pivoted from music to business, he didn't just evolve, he vanished. Most fans didn't follow him from the club to the conference room. They wanted hits, not headlines about solar panels and cryptocurrency. The gap between his audience and his mission just kept growing. He also overpromised, big. Akon City wasn't just a cool side project. It was a utopian promise tied to his name and reputation. When deadlines passed and nothing materialized, people didn't just lose faith in the project. They lost faith in him. Add in lawsuits, media silence, and albums that didn't land. And Akon slowly shifted from being the man of the moment to a symbol of potential never fully realized. Not because he lacked talent, not because he didn't work, but because he was trying to do everything all at once, and the world just wasn't ready to follow him there. And let's be real, there's also the public's short memory. Akon helped shape modern music, launched icons, and shifted the culture. But in the internet age, that history fades fast. One week you're a legend, the next, you're a meme. Still, Akon's story isn't just one of decline. It's about evolution, and that might be the most misunderstood part of all. Just when everyone had written him off, something strange happened. In 2023, reports started coming out that construction on Akon City had actually started. Not fully built, not finished, but real groundwork, roads, infrastructure. A few buildings rising out of that empty field. It wasn't sci-fi anymore. It was happening. Slowly, quietly, but happening. Akon posted updates, shared photos, and doubled down again. He said the dream was still alive, that it was never about fast results, it was about long-term legacy. He wasn't just making music anymore. He was trying to make history. And love him or doubt him, you have to admit, he's still here, still pushing, still refusing to fade away quietly. So maybe Akon didn't fall off. Maybe he just chose a different path, one that's messier, riskier, and a whole lot harder to understand from the outside. But here's the question. If Akon really builds that city, and it actually works, will we finally give him the credit he's been chasing all along? Or will he always be remembered as the guy who gave us Smack That, then disappeared into a crypto dream? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is Akon a forgotten genius? Or a walking cautionary tale?